the Halal Travel Podcast.
Assalamualaikum everyone and welcome to another episode of the Halal Travel Podcast. I'm Adri, a brand new face if you guys don't know. So today we are going to talk about debunking healthy eating. So this season is all about self-growth, and with me today I have a very special guest, and her name is Miss Adlyn Farizah. Welcome, Miss Adlyn. How are you today?
Hi, thank you. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me here.
So, Miss Adlyn, for the benefit of our guests who might not know you, maybe you can introduce yourself a bit and maybe talk about your upbringing and how you came about with your career.
Okay,
Yeah.
so hi everyone. So I am a nutritionist. So usually when people hear the word nutritionist, they kind of think that we are the food police. So they go like, oh, hide the chips, hide the snacks. But that is not true, especially in my practice, in what I believe in. So I like to say that I actually educate and empower people on how to eat rather than what to eat, because everyone has a little bit of a different context in their lives. So I prefer to say that I teach people how to eat instead. So I have worked in F&B, doing a little bit of research and nutrition research as well. And I also see my own clients for nutrition consultations. So that is the bulk of what I do. As a nutritionist.
Okay, so I have one question. What is the difference between a nutritionist and a dietitian? Because there's like similar fields, right?
Yeah. Same. It is. So we start off with a degree in nutrition, and then for dietitians, they go on to do depending on the university, they will do maybe a 2-year master's program. So dietitians are more into the clinical side. So you'll find dietitians in hospitals, so they can do the medical nutrition therapy and all that. For nutritionists, we are mostly working with the general population in just general health and well-being, and mostly in the community. So dietitians are nutritionists. All dietitians are nutritionists, but nutritionists are not considered dietitians.
Right. Okay. That's very interesting. Thank you so much, Ms. Adlyn, for giving some insights of what the difference is between dietitians and nutritionists. So moving on to our first question, what does it actually mean to eat healthy, and why is it important for our overall well-being?
Right. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the relationship with food.
Yeah.
It's quite a big spectrum actually. So there's a positive relationship with food and also a negative relationship with food. So I like to look at having a positive relationship with food as being in the middle.
Yeah.
So that's when you understand what your body needs to thrive and be healthy, but you also know that you can enjoy certain foods, because food is not just about nutrition. So it's also there's the social aspect of food, there's the cultural and emotional aspect of food as well. So having a positive relationship with food means that you are able to recognize that as well, and are able to allow yourself to enjoy these foods. And then on one end, on the negative side, so there's two negative sides. So one negative side can be that, you're only focused with foods that are always deemed or termed as healthy. So you only eat those certain kinds of foods, or I would say clean eating. So that's the term that they would use. And you don't allow yourself to enjoy those kind of fun foods. So let's say if someone were to ask you out, if a group, your friends were to ask you out for dinner or something like that, and it's a place that you don't really want to go to or don't really like to go to, then you would say oh no, it's okay, I won't join you, because I don't like to eat that kind of food.
Right,
So that's sort of so besides having a negative relationship with food, you also it also affects your relationship with your friends, because you're not able to enjoy them for the social activities. So that's one part of having a negative relationship with food. On the other end, it would be just not caring at all about what your body needs to thrive, and it's only focusing on foods that I just want to eat whatever, I like this, so I'm going to eat this. So you're not aware of how food can affect your physical health and your mental health as well. So you only think about the foods that you like. So those are the two negative relationships with food, I would say. And then the positive relationship with food is sort of in the middle, that nice balance that you have.
Okay, for me, I don't care what as long as I get to eat lah, alhamdulillah lah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about emotional eating or some sort. What does that mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
So emotional eating, that's there's, it's not just in relation to nutrition. So nutrition is a science, but eating itself is a behavior. So it's important to differentiate between those two, especially when you deal with things like emotional eating. So with emotional eating, I would say there's a lot of different other aspects involved. There's a little bit of the psychological aspect involved as well. So I would say that, if you struggle with emotional eating, I would say look into what are the causes, of these feelings that would lead you to emotional eat, or and to an extension to overeat on certain types of food. So sometimes we might relate the foods that our comfort foods as something that maybe it's in relation to a habit, or in relation to a memory, or just because we feel good when we're eating it. So try to go back, step out and see the bigger picture a bit, like what are the triggers that cause us to want to reach out for these foods more often? Why do we always reach out for these foods more? Why these certain foods? Yeah, okay. I would say, yeah.
I didn't know there's that emotional aspect of it. For me, it's whatever I see, I just bedal je lah.
Yeah. So it's quite a complex thing, and it's more on holistic well-being, I would say. So do you know what holistic means? Like, people just throw out the word holistic. But what do you know, the meaning behind it?
Well, I mean, I hear my teachers saying it. I don't.
Yeah, they always use it in school, right? But nobody knows the meaning. So holistic means the interconnectedness of things.
Right.
So how different aspects of well-being actually interlink with each other and can affect one another. So we have our physical well-being. So that's your nutrition, your physical activity that you do. And then there's the social well-being. So that's your relationship with friends. There's the emotional well-being, so the state of your mental health. And then there's also the cultural aspect of it. Yeah. So, and cultural and spiritual well-being. Yeah. So it's, it doesn't have to be related to religion. It can be just, your beliefs that you've come to have, over the years of growing up, and how the environment affects that as well. So these aspects of well-being, they sort of tie into each other. So let's say my emotional well-being is not doing so great. It's not at 100%. So what happens is I'm unable to make better decisions for myself in a lot of different ways, but let's talk about the physical well-being. So I'm unable to make good food choices that can help support my my physical well-being. So in a sense, your physical well-being also goes down when your emotional well-being goes down. But if you have that sort of connection with your different aspects of well-being, if you are have a little bit more aware of what that's doing to you, you can actually use one aspect of health to bring up the other one. So let's say my emotional well-being, I know my emotional well-being is at 50%, and then so what I can do, and my physical well-being, let's say, I'm generally healthy, and then I know what's good for me as well. So what I can do is I can, I can try and support my body, my physical wellness by, eating well, eating good foods, or even going for exercise, because exercise, it makes us feel better, releases those endorphins. So, and that in turn, can help bring your emotional or mental well-being up, because there are, the links between certain types of vitamins and minerals with mental health, and also exercise in terms of energy and productivity as well. So that's how, those different aspects of health sort of link together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a lot to process.
I know it is a lot to
but it's very informational. Okay. So moving on to our next question, what are some misconceptions or myths about healthy eating that you often come across?
Okay, I'm gonna throw that question back at you. What have you heard of?
Honestly, in my years of experiencing healthy eating and all that, a few of my friends actually come up to me and say oh, you need to eat more carbs. You need to eat more carbs, because I'm quite skinny. Then but isn't it supposed to be a balanced diet or something? So I don't understand that part specifically, but I know having a balanced diet is the way to go. But should we be eating more of some of those the food groups?
I see. Okay. So I think the sort of misconception that comes about that that context is that there is one diet that suits everyone.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. So so that is definitely a myth. There is no one size fits all when it comes to diet. So I think it's important to actually know what the nutrients are and what they do for your body. So we have three main macronutrients, which are carbohydrates, fats, and protein, and we need them for different processes for our body. And then, so once we know that, we sort of can, okay, so this type of food is for this, for energy, this type of food is for muscle and all that. But it's also important to know that everyone's body is different. And so you would need different quantities. So maybe some people might work well on a higher carbohydrate diet, or some of them maybe work better on a lower carbohydrate diet. Some people, maybe their health goal is to gain more muscle, so they have to increase their protein intake. So it's quite different for everyone, I would say. So that's why it's important to, I sort of always tell my clients to have like a food and feelings journal. So how certain foods make them feel, and how certain amounts as well, because sometimes we don't realize, okay, maybe I'm eating too little, or maybe I'm eating too much. So after every meal, I will get them to think about, okay, do I feel full? Is this satisfying for me? Or do I feel that, oh, actually this is too much, I almost couldn't finish this, but I sort of forced myself to finish this. So that's how you make small adjustments, be it your portion size or be it the portion of the different components on your plate.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, right, I eat like 6 meals a day. Is that too much, or?
Yeah, so again, like, it really depends on your body. So some people, they don't like to graze throughout the day. They don't like to snack, so they only eat maybe like their 3 main meals, and that's enough for them because they have the right portions and they don't feel like hungry or peckish throughout the day. So that's what works for them. So maybe for you, like 6 meals, maybe because at one sitting, maybe you can't eat that much, so you eat like a portion.
Mine is like one full meal, like one full plate portion kind.
Okay.
6 meals, because like I'm a sportsman myself, right? So I know, like I said before, like I try, like whatever I see I eat, but I've been trying to like have prep meals like whenever I go for trainings and go to the gym to increase more of my protein intake. So I've been also taking like protein shakes and all that lah. So on to the next question, like what are some strategies for planning and prepping to support healthy eating, and like with the obstacles with budgeting and also like having food at home, like let's say for example my grandmother cooks at home, or like when your family cooks, and then you have food at home, and then it sort of like breaks the barrier of like your meal preps and all that. So how do you overcome that challenge?
Right. Okay. So with meal prepping and planning, the key is, it's really in the name. It's to plan, it's to prep and to strategize. So again, so what you need to know is, what works for you, what sort of different foods work for you. So I would say, once you understand about the different nutrients, and then try to know what your staple foods are. So let's say for carbohydrates, what do you usually eat? Like what's good for you? What type of rice, what type of bread, what type of pasta, and then your protein foods as well. What kind of protein foods that you like that are easy to prepare, and then same with your fruits and vegetables as well. So the easiest way to go about it is to have those staples ready, know what your staples are, and then have a bank of recipes that work around those different staples, so things that you can use to create different meals. And then when it comes to the budgeting, I would say always maybe shop seasonal, like in terms of the fruits and vegetables. I mean, we don't have seasons in Singapore, right? But then the fruits and vegetables, you would say you can actually see that, oh, okay, at this time of the year, this maybe mangoes are cheaper, or this kind of vegetables are cheaper. Suddenly you have pumpkins coming in, that sort of thing. So try and shop seasonal to save some money on that. And then in terms of having food already at home, so when it comes to that situation, right? So again, see how food sort of links into your social relationship at home. So you don't want to like disappoint your grandmother or your mother and not eat their meal. So what you can do in that situation is always think about adding instead of subtracting. So what I mean is to add value in terms of health. So let's say you have like your mom cooks lauk already, like lauk and the rice. So you can have a look at it and say, okay, what is missing? What is missing in the dish? Maybe you already have that protein dish in the lauk, and then you have your rice. So what's missing then? What do you think is missing?
The protein, lauk, carbs, right?
The protein is in the lauk, and then we have our rice, so that's the carbs.
The fats.
Okay, that can be part of it as well.
Yeah.
And then also one big,
Vegetables.
yes,
Yes.
the vegetables is missing as well. So let's say if that is missing, then you just, add on to that
Okay.
on your own. So it's not, so it doesn't really like affect, what you already planned for yourself. It's sort of like, okay, I can still enjoy this meal. Like there's already food at home. Good.
Yeah.
I'm saving money, and then just see, okay,
Yeah.
what's missing? How can I make this meal better? How can I make this meal help this meal support my whatever health goal that you have? Yeah.
Okay, so now I know that healthy eating like ties with planning and strategy and all that, but sometimes we have to accept the fact that we are only humans, and we sometimes don't follow what we plan. So like how do we sort of like overcome challenges like having cravings, emotional eating, like what you said just now, or having like to continuously tell ourselves like, oh, today's a cheat day, and then the next day is another cheat day, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I think that really links into your relationship with food and having a positive relationship with food. So once you know what works for you, what foods make you thrive well, and then you are also able to allow yourself to enjoy these foods, I think that comes as it makes it a little bit easier to deal with these challenges, because you understand that you're always able to go back on track to that. So yeah, I think it's more of like working towards that positive relationship with food. So let's say maybe you're on that end of the spectrum. So how can you make yourself go towards the positive side? So I think that it's always understanding that so there's so many things that can happen in life, right? You can fall sick, and then just go off track on your meal planning or even your exercise. So it's just understanding that these things happen, and it's always being able to get yourself back on track, and also to not think about just the goal, and not think about maybe just to reach a certain weight, or it's more of like understanding and knowing how your relationship with food makes you feel physically and mentally as well. So once you, it doesn't feel like a chore, like a diet. Yes. And personally, I don't believe in cheat days. So again, so that sort of links to that. So it's slowly unpacking, and these are, sometimes it's because of the influence we get from social media, even from our family, comments about how we weigh, how we look, that sort of thing, what we are eating. So it's again, it's going back to unpack and unlearn those behaviors, those sort of thinking when it comes to food and health, and just putting in more positive thinking, when it comes to that.
Okay, so like what you said just now, so let's say people who snack in the middle of the night, like for me, I snack a lot. So would you say like to go for healthier options like peanuts, like stuff like that? So is it more like, okay, we can snack, but like to have healthier options? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, definitely. So again, with snacking, so when it comes to a lot of like commercially prepared snacks that you can find, it's always high in carbohydrates. So carbohydrates, they give us energy. It's our body's preferred fuel source. But what it does is that it gets digested and used up by the body very quickly. So that's why you feel like sometimes when you have just a plain carbohydrate snack, right, you don't feel satisfied, and then so that cycle continues. So again, it's about understanding the different nutrients. So what you can do with your snacking is to make it more balanced, like a balanced snack instead. So have the different nutrients involved as well, like protein and healthy fats inside, because protein and healthy fats and fiber also, they are digested by the body a little bit slower. So you get that gradual release of energy instead of just that spike, and then after that it goes away, and then you feel sort of sluggish, like food coma. That's what they say. And then the cycle continues. So let's say, if your regular snack, what's your regular snack?
Okay, so it's like I buy that $1 truffle chips from 7-Eleven. That one, and then still have the potato chips, like the Mr. Pringles. So that sort of thing.
I see. So maybe with that, if you still want to have your chips as a snack, right, that's fine. So like think about what you can add on to make it a bit more wholesome and balanced. So you have that carbohydrates there, right? So you can add things like maybe cheese, so that's some protein and some healthy fats as well. Maybe add on more peanuts as well. So you can have, do you know what's a charcuterie board?
No.
Okay, so it's like this board with like cheese slices and
Oh,
fruits.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
that's
yeah,
our
yeah,
board
yeah,
thing. So I
alright.
always tell my clients to have like a little snack box
Yeah.
instead, which sort of emulates that.
Okay.
Yeah, so have like some yeah, so cheese, so you have your chips, right? So you can add in like maybe some nuts as well and some fruit. So that's a little bit more balanced. So you still can enjoy your chips, but then you have other components that help you feel a little bit more full. So that sort of reduces the tendency to over snack or
Right.
overeat. Yeah. So
Okay.
again, yeah. So it's coming back to that. Instead of removing something from your diet, it's adding into how can I add value to this in terms of health and nutrition. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I think that's a very good point, which brings us to our next question, which is how about those who have like dietary restrictions and like how can they incorporate healthy eating in their lives?
So dietary restrictions, you mean like allergies, intolerances?
So like allergies, some people are vegan or they don't eat meat.
Yeah.
Like some like those kind of people like. So how can they like incorporate healthy eating? Because sometimes they can't like get the proteins in. So
Correct.
where can they get it from?
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to people who are vegan or vegetarian, so there are now a lot of different options,
Yeah.
protein sources as well, and you can actually get enough from tofu and tempeh.
Alright.
Yeah, so those are complete sources
Okay.
of protein. So when I say complete sources of protein, that means that they are proteins are made of building blocks called amino acids. So they are essential amino acids that we need from food that our body doesn't produce. So there are plant-based sources of proteins and also animal sources, right? So animal sources, all of them are complete, so they have all the building blocks that our body needs. But for plant-based sources, sometimes things are missing. So like beans and rice, those are some proteins, plant-based protein sources, but they are not complete. Yeah, but for plant-based complete sources of protein, so that is mostly in tofu, tempeh, and even quinoa. So I think now there are a lot of options for people with dietary restrictions. So it's about knowing
Yeah.
more about what you can take and what you cannot take.
Right.
Yeah.
When you said about amino acids, sort of brings me back to secondary
Science.
school. Yeah.
Yeah.
I sort of forgot all about that. So sorry to my teachers, but yeah. Anyways, okay. So now moving on to our next question. So I know that like meal preps, people try to watch what they eat and all that. So can you suggest like some healthy and convenient snack options, like for people who want to let's say they don't know what healthy eating is, so maybe like an option for snacking and all that. So I know you mentioned about the plate, right?
The little snack
Yeah.
box, yeah.
But what are
Yeah.
like the other options as well aside from that?
I see. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you're having, let's say your snack is always just fruit, like
Yeah.
maybe apple, right? So again, that's not balanced. So what you can do is add on some peanut butter to make it more balanced and more filling,
Okay.
and then you can add something fun as well. So if you want like some chocolate chips, that's fine as well. Yeah.
So
yeah.
just be creative lah.
Yeah, just be creative
Alright,
with that.
okay.
Yeah. So I always, but to make sure you don't sort of end up during the day, thinking, oh, what am I going to snack? I don't have anything to snack, and then end up reaching for something maybe convenient or not so good for your body.
Yeah.
What you can do is always have it ready at home, prepare it at home. So that's what I mean by having that snack box. So every day you prepare a little snack box. You have your nuts, maybe some fruit, some cheese, some whole grain crackers maybe. So you know that you can, during the day, you can always go back to that snack
Right.
box. Yeah. So
Okay.
again, it's about that preparation and
Preparation.
having that accessibility to things at home, especially at home, and maybe in your office as well. So maybe at home you can just prepare some cut up fruit in the fridge, so when you open the fridge, oh, it's all cut up already.
Yeah.
It's ready for
Yeah.
you. Yeah, that sort of thing. And then in the office as well, if you have your office pantry, maybe you can put in some packs of nuts inside, or maybe even milk in the fridge. So milk is another good option for snacking as well, so because it's high in protein, so it helps fill you up, and it's also got calcium, so it's good if you find that you're not drinking enough milk throughout the
Yep.
day. So snacks are very good for you to actually top up on some of those missing nutrients that you're not
Right.
getting
Okay.
throughout the day. Yeah.
So okay, snacking is not always a bad thing.
No, it's
It's not
not.
always
Yeah.
a bad thing.
Yeah, correct.
Because some of my friends, right, they will always be like, oh, I cannot eat, I cannot snack lah, I cannot eat this, I cannot eat that. But like what you said, it's about complementing the missing food groups that you have not eaten or like you lack of.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Yeah. Like it's okay to snack
Yeah,
but
yeah.
just like snack properly,
Yeah.
like properly, and also to like eat healthily.
Yeah, so just be mindful
Yeah.
of what your body needs and how it feels, when it eats certain foods. And yeah, it's very normal to feel peckish throughout the day because, once you have your big meal, 2 to 4 hours, it's already been digested
Yeah,
and
and then
used
after you're
up. So
hungry
yeah,
again.
that's not, it's
Yeah.
totally normal to snack in between the
Okay.
day, yeah.
So, all right, this goes out to like people who want to start eating healthy. So, can you provide like tips to make healthier choices when dining or like when they're cooking at home? And like, what are some of the dietary guidelines that people should follow to maintain a healthy diet?
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the dietary guidelines, again, it's making sure that your diet comprises of all the different food groups. So we have your carbohydrates, and we want mostly whole grain carbohydrates because they have a lot of fiber and different vitamins and minerals as well. And they are also digested a little more slowly in the body. Because of that fiber content, and they are less processed. And then we have your protein foods, and then and its alternatives as well. We have your fruits and vegetables. Yeah, so that's like that's most the food groups that we should include in our diet. And then in terms of looking at your meals, do you know the My Healthy Plate?
It's the one that's like the vegetable and then the
Yeah.
protein and then the rice
Yeah.
and all that. Yeah.
Do you know the components?
It's been a long time. I
Yeah,
forgot.
they even have a jingle for it, So,
Really?
yeah, it's like on TV and all that. It's like quarter, half. Yeah, so it's so when you look at the plate, right? So it's half a plate of fruits and vegetables, a quarter of your carbohydrates, and a quarter of your protein. And
Right.
yeah, so. And it makes sense, because you have your fruits and vegetables. They are high in fiber as well. So, and of course, they provide us with plenty of vitamins and minerals just for our health, our immunity. So it helps add up to the bulk of the plate and make you feel more full. And then you have your protein as well, important for muscle repair and recovery. And then especially, if you are a sportsman, obviously maybe you would need a different weight of protein. Yeah, maybe a little bit more to just support your own
Right.
like sports goals, your exercise goals. And then you have your carbohydrates as well because, like I said, they do give us energy throughout the day. So that's why the plate is there as a guideline for us. So I would say that base your meals and even sometimes your snacks also on the My Healthy Plate
Yeah.
to include those different food groups, and then so that's the basic guidelines. So when eating at home, I would say try to use healthier cooking methods. So instead of deep frying, now there's the air fryer.
fryer, yeah.
But also what you put in the air fryer matters. So maybe go for, save those processed foods for like your fun activities, things like that. And then there are other options you can go for, like steaming or roasting, things like that. And then when you cook your own meals, try to limit the amount of added salt, sugar, and saturated fat as well. So saturated fat comes from a lot of our animal food. So if you see like the visible skin on the meat itself, you can take it out.
Okay.
Yeah, so that helps as well. And in terms of reducing the salt and sugar, I know it's a lot of flavor and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can try to look at herbs and spices to flavor your foods instead of just using salt and sugar. So it takes a while for our taste buds to adapt to that, but so you just have to keep on eating it. Yeah, because it.
Okay, so before we wrap up, right, I have two questions on the top of my head. So as we were like having the discussion on healthy eating, I took down some notes and I have this like two questions. Okay, so the first question is like, what is the quickest and safest or budget-friendly ways to like understand our body, what we need, and what we need to eat, and all that stuff? And the second question is like, for calorie deficits, right? So like people on TikTok always say like, oh, go on calorie deficits, do this, do that, but it's actually more complex than what we think. So like, how do we sort of like count our calories when we eat? Like let's say for Hari Raya, when we go out, and after that there's like all the lauk and all that. Sometimes like it's hard to count lah. So
Yeah.
how do we like tackle these two challenges?
All right. Okay. So for the first question, what's the quickest and safest way to know more about your body and to sort of start on your journey to healthy eating is to see a nutritionist or a dietitian, and they have to make sure they are accredited.
Okay.
In Singapore, there is a regulatory system. It's called
Right.
Singapore Nutritionist and Dietitian Association, yeah, so SNDA. So that is the way to know that, okay, yeah, so your dietitian or your nutritionist has gone through their degree, they know what they're talking about,
Yeah.
they know what they're doing. So what we do in our consultations is we really unpack your whole life essentially, so
okay.
it's not just about asking, okay, what you eat all the time. It's, I will ask, how is your stress levels, what does a day like, your day-to-day life looks like, your energy levels throughout the day, even your bowel movements, things about your family history, for females also the menstrual cycle, things like that, because it all links and it all adds up. So that is when we are able to find the gaps in terms of health, and then help you throughout that
Right.
journey. Yeah, so that is, I would say, the safest
The
way.
safest
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
So if you guys want to like find a nutritionist, can find Miss Adlyn
Yes,
lah.
you can
Yeah.
find me.
All right. So for the calorie deficit, for me, I'm not on a calorie deficit. I'm more of on a calorie surplus.
Okay.
So I've been tracking down like how much I eat in terms of the calorie intake and all that. So I actually calculated like I have to have at least 2,000 calories in my body
Okay.
per day.
Okay.
So it's like, I know it's there's like the healthy aspect and the unhealthy aspect to it, because like some is like super duper extreme, like they count minute, like for every meal,
Yeah.
and then like even when they go out and then they tabulate like how many calories they take. So like, how do we go on a calorie deficit or a surplus in a very healthy way?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the best way is, to see how you feel, after every meal. I know it sounds very boring and very repetitive. Yeah, it's all about how you feel, but it is, the safest way as well, and it's to prevent you from actually going on that spiraling into a unhealthy or
Yeah.
negative relationship with food, and also the people around you, like the social aspect of it. Okay, so if you have like a particular health goal, you can start off with counting your, like, how much you need calories. Online there are a few tools that you can use, because it really depends on your age,
Yeah.
your height, your weight, and then your activity level as well. And then with every day, your activity level is not the same.
Yeah,
So you
that's
might
true.
be working out one day, you might be resting the next day, things like that. It does change on a day-to-day basis. So that's why it's not so good to really focus on like the nitty-gritty
Yeah.
details. It's good to have an overview. It's good to know how much you need and how much you need to be in a deficit or on a surplus in order to reach your own goal, whether it's for performance or it's for health, different kinds of health goals. So yeah, you can start off, I would say, yeah, it's okay to start off by tracking, and then you can, there's those kind of apps as well that you
Yeah.
can use, because they have sort of the some local foods inside as well. You can use that to track, so you sort of know, okay, this portion, how many calories or how much protein is inside, how much carbohydrates. It's good to have a rough idea, and then from there, that's when you slowly sort of do those little bit of changes to help you reach your goal. So you can do that way, and then but at the same time, you also need to again be in tune with your body, because sometimes if you go on a calorie deficit, if it's like a big sudden drop, that affects your energy levels,
Right.
and your productivity, and that can be harmful to the body in the long run. So yeah, I think it's more about not stressing out on the details. Yeah, it's more of, again, understanding how your body feels and what it needs to go on, to be healthy and to thrive. Yeah. That's
Okay.
important.
So, Alhamdulillah, everyone. Thank you so much, Miss Adlyn, for the sharing on eating healthy and debunking healthy eating. I think it's been very insightful for us, especially our viewers, who want to start their journey on healthy eating, knowing what to do, and snacking is okay. So yeah, thank you so much, Miss Adlyn, for joining us on our podcast. Before we wrap up, maybe you'd like to share where we can find you on social media,
Yeah,
if we
so
want to contact you.
yeah, you can find me on Instagram. So my handle is @YouCanEatWithMe. So I hope that sort of tells you that it is a judgment-free zone. Yeah. So that's the easiest way to reach out with me.
Alright.
I do share some little tidbits here and there in terms of nutrition and exercise as well. So yeah, you can look out for that on my Instagram.
All right. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you haven't watched the previous episode, there's a link, or just watch our previous episode. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. We will see you on episode 6. Assalamualaikum everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Alright guys, thanks for listening. So we'll see you on the next episode. Don't forget to give us a shout out on anchor.fm/the Halal Travel Podcast. Your voice message could be featured in our next episode.
Yup, and if you have any advertising and collaboration opportunities, contact us at info@halaltrip.com. That's info@halaltrip.com.
Also, don't forget to follow us on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Halal Trip. We're also now on Telegram and TikTok. Until next time, get inspired, go and inspire others.